In the summer of 2018, Portugal arrived in Russia as the reigning European champions. They possessed deeply talented players. They marched under an experienced coach. They carried the fierce confidence of a nation that finally believed it could dream on the global stage. But as the tournament unfolded, something strange began to happen. The collective team slowly started to disappear, and one man took its place. By the end of that fateful World Cup, millions of football fans around the globe no longer saw Portugal as an 11-man squad. They saw Cristiano Ronaldo. But this is not just a story about goals or match recaps. This is the definitive story of a nation's identity. In the summer when Ronaldo became Portugal, at 33 years old, Cristiano Ronaldo had almost everything. 5 Ballons d'Or, 5 Champions League trophies, the historic Euro 2016 triumph in Paris. He had conquered Manchester, rewritten the history of Madrid, and cemented himself as a living deity of the modern game. Financially, athletically, and historically, his legacy was flawless. Almost. There was still one glaring, agonizing void in his resume: the FIFA World Cup trophy. For a man driven by an almost pathological obsession with being the greatest of all time, the ultimate prize remained elusive. At 33, Ronaldo understood with brutal clarity that Russia 2018 was his final realistic opportunity to capture the world. He knew that the history books reserve their highest sanctum only for those who conquered the globe. He did not come to Russia just to play. He came to claim his ultimate destiny, carrying a hunger that would soon consume an entire team. To understand why Ronaldo became Portugal, one must look away from the pitch and into the psyche of the country itself. Portugal is a nation of just 10 million people, sitting on the geographical edge of the continent. It has historically been overshadowed by the giant shadows of neighboring Spain, the wealth of France, and the industrial power of Germany. In the modern geopolitical landscape of Europe, Portugal was often viewed as the underdog, a proud, quiet people searching for a voice that could command the world's absolute attention. For generations, Portugal had produced explorers, poets, and footballers. Yet in the modern era, it often felt like a nation living in the shadow of larger powers. Then came Cristiano Ronaldo. To the people of Lisbon, Porto, and the small island of Madeira, Ronaldo was never just a sports star. He was the living, breathing proof that Portugal could stand eye to eye with the giants of the earth. He was their pride, their collective validation, and their ambassador to the globe. His relentless, almost arrogant belief that he belonged at the absolute top taught an entire country of 10 million to believe the same. Therefore, as the team arrived in Russia, tactics became secondary. The Portuguese people did not put their faith in a formation or a manager. They put their faith in a savior. The immense, suffocating weight of an entire culture's expectations funneled directly onto one man. Ronaldo had already transcended the role of a captain. He was now the emotional shield and sword of his homeland. In Russia, one single night changed everything. When Portugal faced Spain in Sochi, the world expected a tactical masterclass from the Spanish juggernaut. Instead, they witnessed a historical collision between an elite system and one man's pure willpower. Ronaldo didn't just play against Spain. He fought an entire empire to a standstill. His legendary hat trick, capped by a flawless 88th minute free kick, bypassed the realm of football and entered the realm of myth. The goals mattered, but what happened next mattered even more. By the next morning, Ronaldo was no longer just Portugal's captain. He was the face of the entire World Cup. Suddenly, the international community stopped viewing Portugal as a football team. The collective identity of a nation was completely consumed by his individual aura. Across Asia, Africa, and the Americas, discussions about Portugal increasingly became discussions about Ronaldo. The other 10 Portuguese players on the pitch became secondary background characters in a grand, cinematic production. The world was no longer watching a nation play football. They were watching one man carry the soul of 10 million people on his back. But football possesses an unyielding, fundamental law. No matter how great you are, no one can carry the weight of an entire nation forever. As the tournament transitioned into the brutal knockout stages, the human limits of an athlete who looked like a cyborg began to show. The emotional and physical demands placed on Ronaldo were unsustainable. In the final group match against Iran, the fatigue was visible. The explosive bursts of speed were a fraction slower. The jumps were slightly lower. He missed a crucial penalty, and Portugal scraped through to the round of 16 by the skin of their teeth. When they faced a highly disciplined, defensively brutal Uruguay squad, the tactical reality caught up with the myth. Uruguay understood a truth the rest of the world had begun to ignore. Portugal was not playing through Ronaldo. Portugal had become dependent on Ronaldo. And because the rest of the Portuguese squad had become so accustomed to waiting for a Ronaldo miracle, they looked completely lost when the miracle did not arrive. The burden of a nation's expectation had grown too heavy, even for the strongest shoulders in football history. The strange thing about football is that trophies do not always decide what we remember. Portugal left Russia without glory. Ronaldo left without the trophy he wanted most. The story ended much sooner than many had hoped. Yet years later, the image remains. A nation looking toward one man, a team becoming a symbol, and a player becoming something larger than football itself. Football has always been, and will always be, a team sport. Yet every generation produces a few rare, titanic figures who become a living embodiment of their people. For millions watching around the world, the distinction between the player and the nation had all but disappeared. Cristiano Ronaldo was not merely Portugal's captain. He was Portugal, and for one unforgettable summer, Portugal looked back at him and saw itself.